Aloha, my name is Julie Mitchell, and I'm the Executive Director here at Ikahi Mediation Center. And Ikahi is a nonprofit community mediation center that serves East Hawaii. We are one of 5 mediation centers in the state. We were founded back in 1983, and we were part of the Hawaii Island YMCA when we started. And then in 2006, we became our own independent nonprofit. So we have a long history. Next year will be our 40-year anniversary. Our mission is to empower people to come together, to talk and to listen, to explore options and to find their own best solutions. And to achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and training like today to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. Our Brown Bag Lunch series is held every third Thursday at 12 noon on Zoom, and you have to register on Eventbrite each time to get the Zoom link. I do want to let you know about an exciting training that we have coming up. It is our 4-day basic mediation training. It starts March 19th. This training is how our professionally trained volunteer mediators get their start. So if you folks can see each other on here, we do have quite a few mediators in the room. If you are, why don't you raise your hand, and so we can give you like a little bit of a love and appreciation. Rosemary, I see Les and Joe, some other folks, Caitlin. Thank you for your service. These folks donate their time to help community members resolve conflicts, and that is how services are provided on all the 5 nonprofit mediation centers in the state. People take the training also for personal and professional development, and also if they want to consider becoming a mediator. So if you are interested in learning more about that or becoming an apprentice mediator, I'm going to put the link to our basic mediation training in the chat. So if you want to check out that, we would love to have you. It is a fee-based program because it's 4 days, and we have scholarships available for those who need extra assistance. At the end of the talk today, we're going to ask you to fill out a short online survey, and it helps us with our grant funding for this free series. And so when I put the survey link in the chat, just take a moment to click onto it and give us your thoughts. And then I'll also send after an email with the slides, video link, and the survey. So if you're not able to do it from the chat box, please do it later. If you are not sure that I have your email to send you that, you can put it in the chat box to me privately, and I'll make sure you get that. And if you like this talk, please feel free to register for more in the future. Our next speaker on February 17th is pending, so I can't announce it yet. I will also, again, put the link in the chat if you want to come to our next brown bag. You just go in there and you register for that as well. Each time you just select the date you want to come to. So without further ado, please let me introduce our fabulous speaker, Ms. Joan Shafer. She is a recognized expert on employee recognition and executive coaching. For the past 2+ decades, she has been a management consultant and group facilitator who specializes in the design, delivery, and implementation of personal growth, leadership development, team cohesion, and transformation programs for corporations and senior executives. Joan is also a volunteer mentor mediator with Ikahi Mediation Center, and we love her very much. So Joan, take it away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Aloha, everybody. It's a pleasure to be invited to do this and to speak about a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. My objective today is to provide you insights or perspectives and actions that you can take away with you that hopefully will have a positive impact on your life. It's simple, but I'm going to be reporting based on research and science, not on my personal opinion. So one of the things I'd like to do is invite you to get a pen and piece of paper, please, because I'm going to be asking and inviting you to write some things down. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I think it will make it more meaningful for you if you do. Okay. So I'm going to launch into the topic, positivity. So around the turn of the century, Sigmund Freud founded the field of psychoanalysis. And over the last 50 years in particular, the field has grown and the focus has been in significant part on the negative emotion, the power of the negative emotion, meaning fear, anger, sadness, depression, and how to work with it. And about 20 years ago, simultaneously, scientists, organizational development people, researchers, they thought, well, what if any impact is there with positive emotions other than it makes you feel good? I mean, does it have any benefits for you? And what they have found has been astonishing. So this presentation is about the science of what positive emotions and awareness and your positive qualities bring. Okay, so click here. So first, I'm going to give you a very brief definition of what we mean by positivity. And then this next piece I'm going to go into is what do you get from it? Like, how does it serve me? The third part of this session is going to be a list of the actions that you have, that you can take, that you're empowered to do, that will raise your positivity ratio, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. Julie, I'm not going to be checking the chat box during the session. If you see any questions come up, if you would just break in, that would be great. Okay. So positivity, what do we mean by it? So in the abstract, you're looking at, all right, what's good and great about it? But in the practical, it's starting to get clear about what is your genius? What are the things that you bring to the table that should be recognized, not necessarily externally to the world, but at least you know that about you. And the positive state is what brings excitement to us. It's what brings energy. It's what brings creativity. It's what brings a sense of generative action. So basically what we're looking at is the state of positive emotions. Now, we'll look at what do we mean by positive emotions. So when we talk about negative emotions, some of the ones I just mentioned, like anger, fear, depression, would be how they would be categorized in the world of positive psychology. These are what are listed as the positive emotions. So you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So I'm going to be just short and brief about what did we mean by this. What do you get from it when you're living in these particular states? What has the science shown? So if you come from a place of glass half full versus glass half empty, if you are living in a state of positivity more frequently than negativity, and negativity is essential. I mean, we all have negative moments every day, every hour, but do we tend to live in that space or do we tend to live more in the positive space? So let me go and show you some of the benefits. First, I'm going to state this out loud. Optimists live 10 years longer on average. And that is a really long time. And how do they know that? they did this based on this, well, on a number of things, but one of the studies they did were on nuns in convents and abbeys. And they found that happy nuns lived longer than mean nuns. But what we're looking at is when they did study, your life cycle is not necessarily dependent on location or your intelligence or health. It's just what's the perspective you choose to live the world from. Secondly, what do you get from positivity? A third less likely to get sick, right? People who are in a I would say upbeat state tend to be stronger, more physically active. They don't tend to get sick, and they also tend not to get depressed. Okay. If there's any one slide that I hope is convincing about why focus on the positive, living 10 years longer, I hope does it for you. All right. More in the world of health. Benefits of positivity. So over a period of time, what happens is positive emotions will undo the cardiovascular effects of negative emotions. So when people experience or in a state of stress, typically their heart rate is higher, their blood sugar is higher, their immunization system is suppressed, and other adaptations optimize for immediate actions. And if you don't regulate after a short period of time, they can put yourself into a depressed state. So what the research has shown is that positive emotions help people who were previously under stress relax back into that physiological positive or healthy baseline. The second thing it does is, I mean, and I'm guilty of this myself. Does your head go rat, 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 rat at yourself all the time? What have you done wrong? What could you have done better? I wish I had done this. Is that tend to be the state that one lives in versus what did I do well in this situation? What can I bring to the table? How do I view myself from a positive place? So also energizing. And the third thing is people who have experienced trauma, whether it's in the form of abuse or a family that had addiction in it, is that as an adult, when we step into more of a positive framing of life, that actually acts like a little shower each time, is that it starts to erase and minimize the pain that you carry around that. Okay. I'm going to go forward. More benefits. So I'm going to talk about what Barbara Fredrickson, who's a researcher in this field, called the broaden and build theory of positive emotions. And what she found was that people who are optimists are literally able to take in more information than if you're a pessimist. So let me give you an example. If any of you play sports, or let's say you play golf, I'm a golfer. So I'll go out, I hit the ball badly. I have a negative thought about myself. I don't want to hit it badly. And then I go to my second shot and I hit the second one badly. And by the third time I've hit a bad shot, I am now in my head, I should never play this game. Why am I out in the golf course? All wrong. I mean, and I can get into a state where I'm not aware anymore of what's happening around me. And one of the things, I mean, this is a person who certainly had quite a history, but in his prime, one of the things about Tiger Woods that made him so successful was that if he hit a bad shot, his commitment was in 8 steps, he would let it go afterwards. And if you talk to the pros, they said there was nobody better whose ears and senses were open to what was happening on the golf course to pick up what other players were doing on different holes, the roar of the crowd, the feeling of what was happening, the course itself, which was a big part of his success. So optimism allows you to be more open-minded. And the other thing it does is it increases your sense of creativity and energy. So the brain, when it is experiencing happiness, is in a state of being upbeat. Your intelligence and energy rises 30+% more than when you're in a negative state. Okay. Resilience. The ability to come back after something bad happens and cope with adversity is stronger if you come from a place of being positive. So we all lived through the 2018 lava flow, or many of us did. And if not that, then we lived through Hurricane Iselle, or if not that, we lived through fire ants or dengue fever, whatever things happen to us on this island. And the choice is whether we can come from a victim mentality of poor me and I should get and why this and that, versus this is a terrible situation. What do I need to do to address it? I mean, you have to be practical about it, but then start to look at what, if any, silver linings came from this? What new skills have I developed? In other words, what is the silver lining to this cloud? And people who live from that space are more successful. It's just that simple. It feels great when you're in a positive state of emotion, right? I mean, and the thing is, it's more than just the sense of that physicality, like that radiance of feeling good, the impact it has on our confidence, the impact it has on getting excited about something, the impact it has about starting to vision about what you want more of is increased. And then finally, on the benefits, I want to talk about what's called the positivity ratio. So a normal person has a positive to negative ratio of 2-to-1, the average human being. Somebody who's in depression will have a positive negative ratio of 1-to-1, to give you a metric on that. What the research has shown is that if our positivity ratio is 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 6-to-1, and even more, we go from a state of languishing into a state of flourishing or thriving. And they've done research on corporate teams to see which ones are the most effective and which ones are the most successful. And you have to look at what are the problems and address it, but coming into it with the attitude of we are going to accomplish this, we have all the capabilities we need to succeed, makes all the difference in the world. So if you walk into Google, if you walk into Microsoft, if you walk into, think of an organization that's doing really well, there's an excitement and an energy and a positivity, not we're terrible, I hate this place, blah, blah, blah type of thing. So the question then becomes, how do you raise your positivity ratio? Because I want to be in a thriving, flourishing, energized, longer life state than a languishing one. So what I want to do is show you what the research has brought forth as actions that you can take to raise your positivity ratio. And similar to exercise or prayer or diet or whatever we're going to work, it's a practice. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And what I found for myself was the impact was so significant. I was shocked. I was shocked by it. And I can tend to be a skeptical person. You can increase your positivity ratio anytime in your life. You don't need any special abilities. Doesn't cost any money. It's all on the inside. Okay. So pen and paper ready, please. First one. So this may seem obvious, right? But what attracts us frequently and keeps us in their attention are negative people. It's the people who start a lot of conversations with, oh my God, you would not believe. And at that moment, I'm hooked. Like, what wouldn't I believe? Right? And it evokes in me the desire to want to help, to want to rescue. What's the problem? I want to be part of the solution. But I do have people in my life who start pretty much every conversation that way. So what I'm going to invite you to do right now with pen and paper is make a list of 3 people you love to be around, who energize you and make you feel good. And I want you to also write down the names of 3 people who are drama kings or queens who come from the place of being a victim. So the names on the top part of your list are what I call the energy givers. And the people on the bottom of the list are what, for me, I call energy drainers. And I make, in my own life, I make a very conscious decision now to limit my time with energy drainers. Because literally, I walk away like, almost exhausted as opposed to energized. Okay. Next thing. Do something you've never done before every day. All right. So there are 4 things in our control that will enhance our well-being and longevity that are in our control. Okay. So sleep, food, right diet, right exercise, and doing something new every day. Because what happens is when you try a different activity, you go to a different restaurant, you drive down a different neighborhood, you put on a different style of clothes. This is not, oh, I'm watching a new TV show, but something that you've really actually never done before. Your body actually releases a chemical that says, I'm interesting. And you want to share that with other people. And there is a lift inside of you that you feel when you do something new every day. And one of the things that I did when so I did graduate work in positive psychology is I thought I can do that. I'll commit to doing something new every single day. And I could not believe, and it's actually not that hard to do. So here's my invitation to you right now, is I'd like to invite you on pen and paper to write down, what are you going to do today that you haven't done before? What is something new for you? Maybe you're going to talk to a person you've never spoken to before. Or you're going to try a hobby you haven't tried before. You're going to go out and do something you've never done before. But just note something. Sometimes at the end of a day, I would go, oh my God, I forgot to do a new thing. And I would cook something I'd never cooked before. I'd try a new recipe. And what are you going to do tomorrow and the next day? Okay, do something new. Next. Positive environments. Okay, so the underlining statement of this is no mess. If you've got a space, whether it's your room, your office, your home, your car, if it is a mess, it is time to clean it up, clean it out, and put art on the walls and put color in the space and put something that when you walk in, it uplifts you, right? Now, some people will say, maybe you want to put inspirational quotes or photographs or whatever, but it's whatever makes you feel good. It connects to the principle of feng shui, right? Of how do you create a generative, happy, uplifting space. All right, maybe it's something as simple as just bring flowers in once a week. All right, next one. Exercise. I mean, you've all heard all the research about why you should do exercise, but one of the things that you get when you exercise regularly is you send a message to your brain that says your behavior matters, that you're caring about yourself, right? And the other thing that raises positivity is being outdoors. Whether you go for a walk, you go to a park, you have lunch by the bayfront or whatever. If you look at, there's a wonderful book called Solving Tough Problems. And it's written by Adam Kahane, Kahane, who approached people around the world who'd come up with the amazing solution, whether it was political, scientific, behavioral, whatever. He went and he asked them, what were you doing? And to a person, they all said, I was out for a walk. When? It's when you least expect it that the inspiration comes in. It's almost when your mind is at rest or at peace that the spark can happen. Okay. Kindness. Cultivating kindness. So here, pen and paper, please. What did you do yesterday that was kind? And what, if anything, have you done today or are going to do today and what do you want to do tomorrow? So it's a paradox in human psychology that while people remember criticism, they actually respond more to praise and having nice things done to them. And it goes back to the classic line of, we may not remember what a person did or said, but we'll remember how they made us feel. And that's the impact, at least I want to have in other people's lives. On my last day, I can look back on that. Okay. Moving forward. Gratitude. So I said I did a couple of things that were game-changing for me. And one of them was to do something new every day. The second thing that I committed to was I kept a gratitude journal. And it was just like a trashy little, drugstore notebook. It wasn't anything fancy. And I made a commitment that right before I went to sleep every night, and this is what they recommend, is you write down 3 things that you are grateful for from that day, but you can't repeat from another day. So I can't say I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my vision, and I'm grateful for my friends. It's like, what specifically happened today? And what happens when you do this is, one, it forces you to look for, well, what am I going to put in my journal tonight? So I'm looking for, what are the good things that are happening? The second thing is, it's the last thing I'm thinking before I turn out my light. And so I'm percolating on good things rather than ruminating on negative things. And the difference in how I felt when I would wake up in the morning on, I still on a regular basis, it's just extraordinary. I cannot recommend it more. And part of that is just being grateful for what happened. So this morning, I had a meeting booked with the president of my firm, and his assistant forgot to put it on the calendar, and I've been waiting a week for this, and I was so irritated because I need to talk with him, and the assistant felt terrible, and later called back and said, here's what I can do, and did a great job of working around it. And I was so grateful. I was just so grateful that little act is something I will be grateful for tonight. And gratitude letters. So this is a practice that counselors recommend with their patients who are suffering depression, is that they write a letter to somebody who made a huge difference in their life. Maybe it was a teacher, a coach, a minister, parent, family member, friend, somebody whose paths you cross professionally, but you actually write out what they did, the impact it made on you, and you contact that person and say, I just want to read you something. If you could do it face to face, even better, with a mask, and read the letter, hand them the letter, and walk away. So that that person knows their life was worth living. I mean, they made a difference in someone else's life. Next. So many of us tend to deflect compliments and praise. We go, oh, no, that wasn't me, or it was nothing, or we tend to minimize it. And even if you don't agree with what the person is saying, then we can respect that it's happening for other people, that that's their truth. And maybe they're complimenting something about you that you're unconsciously great at, and that this is great feedback for you. So the phrase is emotionalize the good and objectify the bad. If somebody says something wonderful to you, just say thank you, right? And then finally, on how to raise positivity, it's all about in your head. No, I've got one more, sorry, the second to last. So if you have negative thinking running all the time, take your brain to the gym and say, okay, I need to displace it with something else. And it's important to know in advance, what are you going to displace it with? And to start to dream and really relish that state of imagination and possibility, as opposed to whinging about the past and what didn't happen. And last but not least is journaling. For those people who like to write, this is brilliant for you. For somebody like me, terrible. But when you have something negative happen to you, write it out. And what that does is a couple of things. The actual expression and putting it on paper will release. It will clarity.
Joan, we're having a little trouble hearing you. You're sort of cutting in and out. So you've frozen up now. So hopefully we can get you back.
Wise for a couple of
Joan?
days. Yes.
We did not hear probably the last minute or two of what you were saying. You were frozen. So if you don't mind to start over on this slide, it would be helpful.
I don't have any problem though.
Okay, maybe it just froze on our end.
Okay.
Yeah.
It froze for me too, so.
Yeah,
I
just
think
if you
it's
could,
more than
yeah,
just,
if you could start over for just on the journaling slide and say what you were saying.
Sure.
There's just some connectivity issues. Thank you.
Okay. So for those experiences you've had that were negatively impactful, and you're right, the advice is to put it on paper. Because the act of doing that validates what's happened for you and helps clarify what went down. And in the process of doing it, because you're outwardly expressing it, you're relieving some of the tension. And it may stir up those emotions again for a couple of days. But what happens is after you've put it on paper, a couple of days later, it tends to go away and diminish. Whereas on your positive experiences is rather than put that on paper and wow, look, this is what happened to me, is just sit in it and look at what was really good about that. What could be duplicated? What did I learn from that? That's the ruminate, is to chew on it. So in summary, this is the positivity action list. And I have just downloaded I've just done a ton of talking, and I am ready to stop talking and listen to other people. I'd be really interested. I'm going to put Joe Hittner on the spot. Really interested because she is a therapist and an analyst, what her experience has been in this, or what questions or thoughts she has on that.
I just want to affirm everything that you said, Joan. As a psychologist working with clients with depression, these are the things that I recommended. Secondly, in my own personal life, I knew that if I was working with people who had problems, I needed to do something different for me. These were the things I did for myself. And I didn't do all of these, but as I looked at the ones that you said that I didn't do, it's like, yes, I should have, or this is a really good idea. I'm going to incorporate it into my life now. So thank you. This is excellent.
You're more than welcome. I mean, thank you. But what questions do any of you have, or comments, or do you need anything clarified?
In the chat, we have one question. It said, do realists or the conscientious live longer than optimists?
Well, so that's actually that's a really great question, because I don't want necessarily optimism to be confused with, let's say, Pollyanna. So one of the phrases that really helped solidify this work for me was, whatever happens in the external world is whatever happens in the external world. How we choose to, in fact, I'm going to pull up the line. How we choose to interpret it or work with it. You can be a realist, but you can be you can look at it from a positive perspective. So this is, I want to be really clear. This is, here's a metaphor. If you look at yourself as a sailboat, the keel of your life are the negative things that happen, right? They're very grounding because they're protective, things that cause fear and upset and anger, normal response to self-preservation. The question is, how much wind do we want to put in our sails and appreciate what else is out there? So it really comes from interpretation. But I don't want it, this is not about being Pollyanna for sure. I don't know if I've answered that person's question or not. Here's the line. It says, 90% of your long-term happiness depends on how your brain processes the world. The external world is not the predictor of your happiness. It's how we choose to process what's happening around us that is the predictor.
A couple more questions in the chat. Let's do them one at a time. Is a way to get over an obsession that might continue to cause you sadness or depression? Will this action list help to get over that obsession?
I am not a psychologist, but I'm going to ask Joe. Joe, do you mind me asking you that question?
I was just thinking of an answer to that. And one of the ways of looking at it is, who is in charge of the obsession or you? And it's looking at that perspective of who is in charge. Do I want it? Can I be in charge of it? And how do I interpret the life around me as to who is in charge? So yes, these definitely will make a difference if you're looking at I can do something versus I can't and it runs me.
And I also think there's a difference, and just so that this person is clear, between obsession and addiction. We're not talking about addiction necessarily, but obsession, one thing for sure. I mean, honestly, I was obsessed years ago in a not great relationship, and I obsessed about it, and I had to get my head out of that space. And that's when I took it to the gym and started looking at what can I think of that's actually beneficial rather than detrimental.
Another question is, if you keep unpleasant things inside and not express yourself, then you are positive?
No. Permission to speak out loud. I mean, this is not about don't be negative. Be negative, but have balance in your life of having more positive than you do negative. That's really, hopefully, the underlying message of today.
If others have questions, okay, here's another one. Is there an optimum approach to share this with someone who struggles with positivity? So how could you give the messages from this workshop gently, I guess, to somebody who is more negative?
I don't know whether it'll fix the person or not if they tend to, I mean, people who are victims, they love the attention it brings to them, for sure. I mean, drama creates a magnetic force that brings connection to people. It's, does this person want it? And you could, I don't know, I would just say, well, I took this workshop and I found this interesting, and I'm going to give this to a bunch of people, and I care about you. And I don't know, if you're interested, great. And if you're not, give it to someone else.
Yeah, you can forward on the link to the video that we're going to send to you afterwards. Another question. Can you think of any good motivators to stay positive and finish the list? Oftentimes I think it means I am to start to do one thing and then give up.
I would say, look, you have to be, you have to do what's genuine for you. I wouldn't necessarily do all 9 of these things. I mean, I hate writing. Boil me in oil before I oh my God, I hate it. So I never write stuff down. And my house is, I've created my nice space, but the other things, so which of these do you want to commit to that you're drawn to, that you'd enjoy doing rather than I have to? That's the opposite of what we want to have happen. You want to do something that's going to be easy for you, and will have an impact. I mean, for me, it was gratitude list at night and something new every day.
Okay, here's another one. Once a friend of mine told me, a communication professor at the university, that the body can hear your communication with yourself. Therefore, writing a bad experience on a paper should not necessarily be recommended because it attracts negative feelings into your life. Unless you burn it, someone might read it.
So if I'm hearing what this person is saying, right, is if by writing it down, your body is going to re-experience this negative experience, right? And that may not be a beneficial thing. But burn it if you want to. You don't have to write it down and keep this thing. I mean, if that's part of the release for you, great. But just from what I've learned in my coursework, writing down the experience is helpful. And in the short term, you can relive it, and that's unpleasant. But because you've put it on paper, and whether burn it or otherwise, which is fine, after a couple of days, the sting of that will go away more.
I think this is Les Hittner. I think I can speak to that pretty directly and personally, because although my divorce from my previous wife was an easy one as divorces go, it was still highly emotional, and the emotions were almost all negative. And my psychologist friend, who was not my wife at the time, suggested that I journal. I've never journaled at all in my life. And I journaled for about 3 years. And I found it extremely helpful. I don't journal anymore. But during that time, it was the single most important thing that I did.
Thank you.
If people have other questions or comments, you can either put them in the chat, unmute yourself, or do a raise hand. Okay, wait, let me see a couple things in the chat. Writing it down is similar to naming something to deal with it. Comment. And then someone else is saying, scientifically proven that environmental enrichment turns stress into novelty, that exercise and sometimes of meditation grow the brain, etc. Would it assist to provide a list of compassion meditation mantras or thriving meditation, my invention mantras?
Was that a question, Julie? I missed that. I mean, meditation, compassionate practice is brilliant. Was she making a comment, or he making a comment, or was that her question?
Well, I think she's saying, would it assist to provide a list of compassion meditation mantras or thriving meditation, my mantras, my invention mantras?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other questions, comments, musings? Well, you're thinking of that. I am going to put the link to the online survey for our talk today in the chat if people could click through and do that. And if we still have about 8 more minutes scheduled. So if people have more questions, comments, want to have a dialogue, please feel free to chime in. Joan is available to be with us until 1.
Thank you very much.
Here's a comment. At certain points of our lives, some of these things may be difficult to do for whatever reasons. Can fake it to make it be helpful?
Yes, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
And the person who shared about the mantras said you can email her for the list at her website, which is green247.org, green247.org. It's in the chat. And so for people who want that, here's another comment. Joan, you are the best. Thank you for the helpful reminders and new information. You've inspired me to pick back up my handwritten gratitude notes to others. And then another
For the
comment.
person, thank you very much. And for the person who just dropped their website, Green247, that was just a really nice act of kindness to benefit others.
And then someone is saying, Mahalo, very practical, useful, and doable steps, something for everyone. Another comment is, I use church and singing and prayer, which helps my positivity. Learning a new beautiful song is very positive for me. Music in general can be positive or negative and different for each individual.
Yeah.
Someone is asking, could you provide some examples or suggestions for number 2? By which I'm assuming is do something new every day. Is that right? To the questioner? I'm thinking so. Yes. What would be example, Joan, of doing something new every day?
Okay, so for me, on a small basis, I might try a new recipe. I might drive down a street. You know, I have my routine. I think, no, I'm going to go down the street. What's down here? I'll go take a look at that. Or I'll go to a new restaurant or a new shop, or I decide I took up knitting. I've become obsessive. I make a point to reach out to new people I haven't met before, and we'll talk to them. Those are some of like simple everyday things that I do, but for sure, I know it's not. I'm going to watch a new episode of the Great British Baking Show. It's going to be something I haven't done before. It is say yes to stuff.
Another comment is saying, thank you. I like the ideas of doing something new every day. What a challenge. And the gratitude journals each night. Someone else is saying, Mahalo for the session. My calendar has a saying, words are messengers of the mind. And the person who asked for examples of number 2 is saying, very good, great ideas. Thank you.
Okay.
And another person suggesting you could research a new favorite topic on YouTube, like to research similar philosophy, like philosophy.
Yes, yes, yeah. That's a new thing.
I'll share something about the gratitude. For a while, I was having a hard time falling asleep at night, and I started just going in my mind, not writing it out, but just running through my mind what I was grateful for that day. And after a while, I could only do a few and I would be asleep. Like, it was such a way to calm my mind to think about it. And I would think of the most teeny tiny little things that, you know, I don't know, my cat came to snuggle me with me in the bed. There was always one thing I could think of, you know, like I would try to think of the food, my dinner tasted wonderful. Like, it didn't have to be huge, magnificent ideas. It was just small things I was grateful for.
Yeah.
Someone sharing attending this talk is something new that I did today.
Perfect.
I see a
Okay.
hand raised. Let's see. Yes, Joe and Les.
one thought that I had was to have this positivity action list available. And as I get kind of lost in my world and all of that, notice that I'm getting more negative, is to go back to it and choose something. If I'm not somebody who is wanting to do something every single day and stay with it forever, is to use it occasionally when I notice that things aren't going as well as I would like them to.
Thank you. And we will be sending out these slides. So if you wanted to print out this last one and post it on your fridge or something, you could. Another comment is, thank you, Joan. I've always felt that I was a positive person and did a lot of the things you suggested. Now I understand why I have a positive attitude in spite of the negative things around us.
Nice. So you know what, Julie, I'm going to go to a slide. One thing, I always love this expression. But if you want to know what are my strengths, I mean, go for it. And this will be in the deck. These are free websites. Is go to VIA, valuesinaction.character.org, and also strengthsfinders.com, right? And they will give you an online survey for you to take, and you get back a written report that says, who are you? And it's from the University of Pennsylvania, from their Department of Positive Psychology. And it's free because they're collecting data and they want more people to take the survey. So it's a win-win.
So I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. Please do take a minute to fill out our short survey. I'm going to put the link one more time in the chat because it keeps going up as people make other comments. And it does help with our grant funding for this free series. I actually use your comments to help our presenters as well. We give it to them to see how they did and what they might do differently the next time they offer it. And please check your email. I'll be posting the slide deck, the video link, and the evaluation form if you can't click into it from the chat. Sometimes people have problems with that. And we hope to see you at our brown bag next month. And finally, let's give a positive round of applause to our speaker, Joan, for sharing today. Yay!
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. Have a great day.